Hey, I'm Bretton,
And I'm Dan.
and we're localmovers.com. And today we're going to talk to you about van lines and franchises. Franchise is really a clean start or new start opportunity, and it comes with its pros and its cons. The pro, obviously, is that you get a respected brand that will help you win customers immediately. And the franchise operator should be invested in helping to send you leads because their website will set up a page on their page for your local branch of the business. They'll help you set up your Google Maps, your Yelp, all that other jazz. And so from the very beginning, you'll have credibility and you'll be in a position to start getting customers. But that doesn't come without a cost. First of all, there's a big upfront cost, almost as much as buying a business. It could be 30K, it could be 50K. Just to have the brand name, you got a 6 to 8% fee. So 6 to 8% of all your income, that is basically their rent sitting on you, and they're taking that. It's like a tax. They always take that percent away.
Got it.
Then on top of that, there's a baked in marketing fee, which is supposed to cover the budget that they spend on maybe TV ads or radio ads in your geo. And that could also add in another 4, 5, 6%. So you're looking at on the low end around 10%, high end around 15%, just going straight away to them. But they will also provide you a huge amount of SOPs, training materials, help you with hiring, help you with onboarding. So it's a business in a box for sure, but it puts in a safety, it puts in the floor, and it could be a good lifestyle business option, but it's not likely to be able to bring you to that multi-million-dollar opportunity. You might make like, 500K to $1 million top line, but after you put in all your costs and your expenses and stuff, you're pulling out of each one of those locations a few $100,000,
Okay.
right?
Okay.
So you're really like running their business for them in part. So franchise sets a really good floor. It could be a really good option for you, and we'll dive deeper into it in another episode. But overall, there are limitations.
What about buying a business? Explain a little bit more about just buying a business maybe that's already existing. What's the advantage, maybe disadvantage of that? Why would somebody want to do that? What would they need to do that?
If I just happened to have $50,000 and I was looking to buy a business, I would look broadly and look for the business that had the kind of best cash flow and the best ROI, the best rate of return. There are many small businesses that you can buy from like food services, a restaurant type deal, laundromat type deal, landscaping business. So if I just had a fixed wad of cash and I said, hey, I want to be a business owner, I would and I didn't know anything else, and I was going to hire people to kind of operate the business, then I would cast a wider net and I wouldn't hone in on moving. But if I already had a lot of moving experience and I was trying to get into a new market, for example, we've seen a lot of our existing partners do this. They buy kind of like a middle of the road business and they slap their brand on it, or sometimes they keep the old brand for a while if it has some brand equity, and then they partner there and allows them to work across multiple cities. And if they're doing a lot of interstate between, let's say, Miami and New York, or 2 different cities in Texas, now they've got a local mover at the end destination so they can ship it and truck it and then do the drop off and provide a really good customer experience. So,
And that's a good segue there, like shipping between.
yeah.
So we talked at the beginning of the episode about van lines. How do those work in this kind of shipment from New York to Miami?
Yeah. Van lines are a fascinating part of American history because in the beginning of the rise of the National Highway System Network, which really came about after World War II, there was a huge surge in trucking. And kind of what happened around that time is a lot of truckers wanted to have a load going from both the destination to the end and then back from the end to their original destination. And so these van lines arose as a broker to help keep truckers loaded up with goods. And the ones that are in the moving space that are specialists in the moving space are a national moving network of largely interstate movers. And there are a couple of really big ones: Allied Van Lines, United Van Lines, Atlas Van Lines. There are other brands. There's Mayflower. There's a bunch of them. And when you work with one of these van lines as an operator, you become an agent of that van line. This is very, very different from being a franchise operator, and it's a totally different story. To kind of help you understand how this works, first of all, you use their DOT and their motor carrier authority on your trucks, and you also fit under their umbrella. But what happens is you get this network effect, right? So there's a local agent maybe in LA, they pick up the goods there, and then it gets trucked over, and then you deliver in New York City because you're on the New York City end, and then you share the revenue from the business. You keep your business name, you keep your local customers, so you can operate still as a local mover. You're very independent, but for these interstate loads, they help coordinate with you and they bring deals to you.
What are some downsides? So it sounds like I can, if have a local moving company, participate with the van line. They're going to help me do the kind of last mile. I just need to get the stuff from the house or wherever it is, over to kind of the local dock, and then they're gonna take the rest interstate, and then the final delivery will be split between people working there. What are some downsides of working with that? Why would I not want to just have my truck go all the way to New
Absolutely.
York? And
Well, for a really long haul, unless you're a really big operator in your city, you're not going to send trucks, certainly not coast to coast, and probably not even from New York to Florida, for example. But you will pay, let's say 8 to 12%, probably 10% of the whole deal goes to the long haul portion of the load. And you don't have an option. You must operate with them. You also don't have a say about who the terminal end, or if you're the terminal end, who the initiating end of the load is. So you don't own the customer relationship. The customer is really thinking, hey, Dan's movers picked up my stuff, but they don't care about Dan's movers because most of the lead origination comes from the van line. So Allied Van Line is going to give you that lead, and
Okay.
they're going to probably charge you a fee for sending you that lead, just the way any other provider would, like localmovers.com will find you leads and send you the leads. But we do take a commission for giving you that lead. So it's a very similar model to the van lines, where they're a broker and they're brokering the entire process, and then
I
they
see.
take a broker's fee, so they're marking things up 30% on top of it,
Yeah.
and they're just office workers.
So if I'm thinking about, maybe getting being part of this van line
Yep.
or working with them, and I want to add them to my funnel, when does it make sense? Like, what do I know? I need insurance. How much money should I have? What type of business, like truck? How many trucks do I need? How many guys? How do you think about that in terms of adding them to as a potential channel for new leads?
Yeah, I mean, usually in order to get into this space, you need to be operating for a couple years. You need to show some cash on the books, maybe like say 50K. You need to have a physical office address, often some warehousing space where you can hold on to loads so they're comfortable. They can stage things at your place of storage if needed. They also want to make sure that you're an LLC. You have about $1 million of liability coverage, and that you're a business in good standing with the FMCSA and your DOT registration's up to date. They'll probably also inspect your business a little bit, make sure you have a good BBB rating, look at maybe your Google and Yelp reviews, which is why it's so important to have them good. But remember, there are a bunch of different van lines you can pick from. Allied Van Lines is the easiest to join. They're a really big operator, but they have the least stringent requirements. Kind of in the middle ground, you've got Atlas Van Lines, which is somewhere in between. And the United Van Lines is kind of the premier operator, which is the hardest one to get into. The van lines have their own recruiters, so you can submit an application to and get the ball rolling with them. And then they'll take the process from there. And you should apply to multiple van lines and see what kind of deal you get with each one and what could work for you. So we talked a little bit about a couple business models that are specific to the moving industry. Do you want to give like a quick takeaway on the difference between being a solo operator who handles everything yourself, operating under the umbrella of a franchise banner, and being a member of a van line and acting as an agent for that van line?
Yeah, I think they're all great options. Depends on, where you are with your business. Obviously, starting your own business, especially if you haven't run a business, I think that's where you should go first. If you've got some experience moving, maybe you've started the business, but you're looking to take things to the next level, it might be time to buy a business. A few years in, you're looking to expand to a new city, it might be a good time to buy. Or if you've worked for a company for a while, maybe you've got 5 years of experience and you've got some money saved and you don't want to start from scratch, it makes a lot of sense to look at franchising. This is something that is going to provide you with extra support. You're going to be having a very solid floor and foundation to start on. It
But you
might
got to be pretty well off to start, because you got to pony up 50 to 100K, somewhere in that range.
Yeah, exactly, exactly. So like I think it's just a level of effort, right? If you want to go and buy a company, that's going to take a lot more diligence. You need to be more financially savvy, maybe bring in an accountant and a lawyer. With a franchise, you might want some of that support as well. But this is going to be kind of a business in the box. You're going to be able to get it and kind of live your lifestyle. It'll probably cap. You won't be able to do, maybe you'll be able to do multi-state, but it would be, you're not going to be able to make hundreds of millions of dollars in this type of business. And then when it comes to van lines, I think that's a great opportunity to get into these interstate moves and get your feet wet there. You can still kind of maintain the local operation and work with them to expand your funnel and get other leads.
Yeah, the interstate moves are a big opportunity, and the van lines can really help smooth that over for you and make that a more robust part of your business out of the box. So, thanks for listening to us today. We're excited that you got a chance to learn more about how to expand your business and your knowledge of the business, and let's get moving.